What is up, guys? This is Mekkah, and I'm here to give you the first legacy deck analysis that I'm going to do. I decided the first deck that we're going to cover is Virizion Genesect, since it's A, the most common deck, and B, it's one of the best. So let's get into it. This deck revolves around Genesect EX, 170 HP Pokemon EX, nothing too special there, and it's a Team Plasma Pokemon. We'll get into that. So Megallo Cannon is your main attack. It does 100 damage for 3 energy, which will 2-KO most Pokemon EX, and it also snipes for 20. That's okay, it's pretty good, but it's not the reason you play this. What makes Genesect stand out is Red Signal. So when you attach a Plasma Energy from your hand to this Pokemon, you're allowed to switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with his or her active Pokemon. So it lets you drag up benched Pokemon like with Lysander and Pokemon Catcher. The difference is that Lysander doesn't exist in this format and Pokemon Catcher is a flip. So this is one of the few reliable ways to put pressure on your opponent's bench in Legacy, and that alone is pretty great. Pretty tough to play around sometimes. The other reason that Genesect is such a tough contender is G-Booster. So this is an A-Spec. You can only play one A-Spec in your deck, and it's a tool that only really does anything if you attach it to Genesect EX. It gives it an extra attack called G-Booster, where for the same cost as Megallo Cannon you suddenly do 200 damage, and then you have to discard 2 energy attached to this Pokemon. The cool thing is that it actually goes through any effects that are on the defending Pokemon, so something like Silver Mirror or Safeguard does not protect you against G-Booster. Because you have to discard 2 energy and because you have to keep the tool to Genesect, you can't really stream it, so you can't really expect to use G-Booster every turn, but it's a great burst attack that lets you KO a healthy Pokemon EX, and that lets Genesect get a pretty good leg up in the price trade. There's 2 ways to get Genesect all powered up. One of them is the old-fashioned Virizion EX. So for 2 energy you use Emerald Slash, do 50 damage, and search your deck for 2 grass energy cards and attach them to one of your benched Pokemon. Usually that's Genesect. Pretty good in itself. There's no muscle band in Genesect. There's no muscle band in Legacy. So usually you have to Emerald Slash twice before you can KO something with Megallo Cannon, but that's okay. You just get to Genesect all powered up and you're ready to go. So nothing too shabby. Verdant Wind, the ability, is also a pretty important reason to play Virizion EX. While it's in play, it protects any Pokemon with grass energy from being affected by special conditions. This is particularly huge against Hypnotoxic Laser because well, A, you don't take any extra damage, and B, you don't have to deal with the dreaded Sleep Flip, so you can actually retreat and attack if you want to. So it makes your Pokemon more durable and more consistent, even if you're not using Emerald Slash. So that's pretty good. But there's another way to get Genesect powered up in Legacy, and that's Celebi Prime. I don't believe Celebi was ever legal with Virizion and Genesect in the standard or expanded formats, but in Legacy it's here. So when Celebi is your active Pokemon, you could use Forest Breath and sneak in an extra grass energy attachment from your hand. That's pretty powerful. It lets you attack with Genesect without ever using Emerald Slash. So if your start is good enough, you just get a turn 2 Megallo Cannon and you get going from there. It's pretty powerful and it makes the deck a lot faster. It's only got 60 HP, so it's kind of an easy prize to give up. That is one drawback. The other drawback is it has to be active, and that's why we have to play a lot of Switch and Skyro Bridge to take advantage of it. Lastly, it's also a pretty expensive card. It costs more than Shaymin EX at the moment, so if you're on a budget you might not be able to play this. You could play without Celebi, but it makes the deck a lot worse. So Celebi pretty good, just don't give up too many of these. Because we play so many Switch and Skyro to take advantage of Celebi, we can also take advantage of Smeargle. Portrait also only works when Smeargle is active, and when you use it, you look at your opponent's hand and you get to use a supporter card you find there. You have to, so if you only find Professor Juniper, then you have to use it. It's pretty good because you can potentially use 2 supporters in a turn, or you can use it to bail yourself out of a dead hand. Another cool thing about Smeargle and Celebi is that their quote-unquote abilities are called Poke Powers, and those cannot be stopped by Garbodor. Unfortunately, they do get stopped by special conditions, so if they play a Hypnotoxic Laser on it, for example, then you can't use it, but still pretty good to keep in mind. Speaking of consistency Pokemon, we also have a Jirachi EX here. Stellar Guidance is the exact same thing as Wonder Tag from Tapu Lele GX in Standard, so you're probably familiar with it in some fashion. Why do we play both Jirachi and Smeargle? Well, Smeargle isn't very reliable. Like, he's good, don't get me wrong, but you might not find a supporter, or you might not find the supporter you want, and you also have to deal with the hassle of getting him active, whereas Jirachi, you just put on your bench to get a supporter and that's it. So you also get to pick and choose which supporter you want. So let's say you don't want to use Juniper, you want to use N or Professor Oak, you can. So that's why we play both, and we will rarely prize both, so that way a ball can always get you out of a dead hand. We've also got Mr. Mime in here to protect our benched Pokemon with Bench Barrier. There's a lot of these sniping attacks in Legacy. There's Darkrai EX's Night Spear, Plasma Curum's Frost Spear, and then there's EX's Hammerhead. And even in the mirror match, the 20 damage from Megalo Cannon can be significant, so Mr. Mime is pretty important in this deck. Buffalon is a tech attacker. You always kind of want to have a non-EX attacker in your deck. I think it's best in the mirror match, because the damage adds up very well. Gold Breaker does 60 plus 60 more if you're facing a Pokemon EX. So it does 120, and what that means is you can use Emerald Slash for 50, and then follow up with a Gold Breaker for 120. And that's very good in the mirror match, because Virizion and Genesect both have 170 HP, so they get KO'd by a combination of Emerald Slash and Gold Breaker. And also Buffalon is very hard to KO, because it only has 100 HP, but Boofer buffs it by 20 effectively, so Genesect cannot want to KO it, and also cannot be sniped by the Megalo Cannon bench damage, because you know it kind of has a built-in Hard Charm / Eviolite. So pretty powerful, and it only gives it one prize, so that's nice. This Ditto has a funny Pokebody called Dittobolic. It does the same thing as Sudowoodo in Standard. It reduces your opponent's bench to 4. And this is most important against the V-Create Victini that some decks play. V-Create only costs 2 energy and does 100 damage, but it's fire typed, so Genesect and Virizion are both weak to fire and they get 1-hit KO'd. So you want to stop that. But the attack only works if they have 5 or more bench Pokemon, and Ditto stops them from having that. So it's very important to have it in matches where you're facing V-Create Victini. Other than that, it doesn't really do much. That's all the Pokemon that I play. One more thing I want to note, Buffalon has a 2 retreat cost, which makes it pretty annoying to use. Everything else is a 1 retreat, so they work with Sky Bridge. This is also the reason I don't play Deoxys EX, because it has the same retreat cost. But Deoxys EX does buff Genesect with its power connectability. Lets it do 110 or even 120 damage, and that makes it easier to add up KOs with Emerald Slash, so that is a tech you could play. Now for the consistency engine, I play 4 Professor Oak, New Theory, 4 Professor Juniper, and 2N. That's a pretty standard engine. I noted that Oak was a very good supporter in Legacy, because it's a pretty neutral supporter. It doesn't hurt you by discarding any cards like Juniper does, and it also doesn't become a weaker draw card in late game like N, and it also doesn't give your opponent a new hand. So Oak is a good support in pretty much any situation. So that's why I play 4. I also play a Skyla, mostly to be able to search out G-Booster. If you want to 1-KO a Pokemon EX, you better be able to have a way to search out that card. So that's why we play Skyla, and we can also use Jirachi to find Skyla. One supporter that I sometimes see in this deck that I personally don't play is Shadow Triad, which lets you get back a Team Plasma card from the discard. Again, mostly for G-Booster, but you can also use it for, say, a Genesect EX or a Colress Machine if you want to. I don't play it for reasons I'll get into later. Because we play Skyla and sometimes this deck plays Random Receiver. No, because I play Skyla and sometimes the deck plays Shadow Triad, you cannot play Random Receiver in this deck, because you don't want a Random Receiver into one of these tech supporters. You always want to get one of these draw supporters, or they won't get you out of a dead hand. So instead we play Bicycle, which lets you draw cards until you have 4 in your hand. Pretty nice, because every Pokemon in this deck is a basic, and generally you'll be able to play lots of cards down. So Bicycle should usually draw you at least 2, and ideally 4 cards. And the reason you want to play something like Bicycle and Random Receiver is so you have a consistency card that you can Junk Arm for. That way if you have a dead hand late in the game, you can use Junk Arm for Bicycle or Random Receiver, and then get out of your dead hand. It's kind of like the way you use Ultra Ball in Standard to get a Shaymin EX, kind of. So while we're looking at trainers, let's look at these. So Colors Machine gets a plasma from your deck and attach it to one of your Team Plasma Pokemon that's only Genesect in this deck. It kind of clashes with Red Signal, because if you attach from your deck, then you're not attaching from your hand, which is a requirement for Red Signal. So sometimes I don't even play these if I have them. But it's nice if you're about to use G-Booster, because you'd rather discard Team Plasma Energy than Grass Energy, since they're easily accelerated, and they also can be removed by Lost Remover. So if you're going to discard energy in any way, you might as well make it these special energies. There's Dual Ball to search basic. You flip 2 coins, and for each head you search for a basic. Pretty good. 75% chance to get at least one, which tends to be all you need. Every Pokemon in this deck is a basic, as I said, so it's very nice to have it. Some people play Level Ball because they're annoyed by the flips or something. I don't really like it because most of the Pokemon in this deck, I mean, most of them can be found by Level Ball, but the most important one, Genesect, cannot. You can play Team Plasma Ball as a tech to search out just the Genesect, but I just like the versatility of Dual Ball, and I don't think we need any more balls. But if you do think you want more, I'd rather just play Ultra Ball or something, and that way you can get whatever you want. Junk Arm, most important card in Legacy, definitely important in this deck, because it doesn't just get back the tech trainers, but it gets back G-Booster. So this is why I don't play Shadow Triad, because if your G-Booster ends up in the discard, you can just Junk Arm for it. I usually attach my G-Booster as soon as possible if they have Junk Arm. So if they have Tool Scrapper, so be it, I could just Junk Arm for the G-Booster when I need it. So it's not an issue if they Tool Scrapper right away. But it also gets like Bicycle, Colors Machine, Switch, whatever you want. Really good card. One of those one-offs that Junk Arm makes really good is Lost Remover. It's most useful against Team Plasma decks, because those play almost exclusively special energy. But it's also nice to just remove double colorless energy. It's better than the Enhanced Hammer that you might be familiar with, because if you play Enhanced Hammer you discard special energy, but here you put it in the Lost Zone, and you cannot get back anything from the Lost Zone. Not even by using something like Raiden Knuckle with Thunder as EX. So no reason to play Enhanced Hammer over Lost Remover. Speaking of getting back, we play 2 recovery cards, Energy Retrieval and Super Rod. So Energy Retrieval is like an instant way to get back energy from the discard, which works well with Celebi's Force Breath. Once you get Celebi active, you display Energy Retrieval for 2 grass. You get him back and you attach him right to your Pokemon. So that's nice. Super Rod is more like if it's late in the game and you either want to get a specific Pokemon back or you want to use Emerald Slash, but you're almost out of energy. You just play Super Rod and shuffle back some energies, or that specific Pokemon that you want. So I like having both in here. We play 3 Switch and 3 Sky Arrow. Switch is just you need to get to a different Pokemon, usually to use Portrait or Force Breath, whereas Sky Arrow just gives you flexibility as long as it sticks, but it does use up your retreat for the turn. As I said, it doesn't work with Buffalon or Deoxys because they have a 2 retreat cost, but everything else basically has free retreat as long as Sky Arrow is in play. And this card is really what makes Celebi and Smeargle so powerful. Some people play an Escape Rope in this deck in addition to the Switch and Sky Arrow stuff. Not really a fan of that because it can clash with Red Signal. Like say you Red Signal first, then you play a supporter, and you also need a switching card to pull off whatever play you wanted to make, and then you draw Escape Rope. You're just kind of kicking yourself, so not a big fan of Escape Rope. Tool Scrapper is very nice. Usually it's for Garbodor to turn on your abilities again by taking away Garbotoxin. But really almost every tool is annoying against Virizion Genesect. Like if Eviolite stops damage, Silver Mirror stops damage, Silver Bangle makes them do more damage, Life Dew stops you from taking prizes. You want to take those off when you can, so that's why I play Tool Scrapper. And you can play Junk Arm to get it back, so pretty good. That just leaves us with the energy. So 4 Plasma Energy, because they're basically Pokemon catchers. You would play 4 Pokemon catchers if you could play catcher without a flip, so no reason not to play 4 Plasma Energy. And then you want to play a bunch of grass, because Celebi and Virizion both use a lot of that throughout the game. 9 is plenty. I'd like more, like 10 or 11, but you gotta sacrifice space somewhere. What I like about this deck is it's very fast and consistent, because every Pokemon is a basic. So it doesn't take much to get going. Sometimes you just need a couple Pokemon and energy and you're good to go. You don't even care that you don't have a supporter. And at the same time, this way it can steal games from opponents who have a less consistent deck. It's the ability to drag up benched Pokemon cannot be overstated how good it is. You can drag up like Garbodor, Electric, anything you want really. Nothing is safe against Virizion Genesect. You can't even bench a Keldeo because you just want to KO it and get 2 prizes. It's also very good at taking advantage of people playing Jirachi EX. But at the same time, G-Booster is just such a useful one-hit KO. So you have a very variable damage output depending on what situation. And of course, Virizion Verdant Wind is also a very good reason to play this deck, as you cannot really be screwed over by Hypnotoxic Laser. It has some weaknesses though, because the attackers are like almost all Pokemon EX, except for Buffalo, which most people don't even play. That's annoying if you get one-hit KO by, say, Weavile, Rayquaza EX, the Victini if you don't get the Ditto down. That can get you to lose quickly. You're weak to fire, so a deck like Reshiram Typhlosion just runs this over. But that's just a tight matchup, you can't really do much about that. But that can be annoying. Overall, still a really good deck though, and in a minute you'll be able to see me play a game with it and analyze the plays. So yeah, hope everything is clear. If something is not clear, then leave it in the comments, I guess. Alright, don't worry if I sound too different. I'm using a different program to record this. So I played a game on the Versus ladder with the Virizion Genesect deck, and I picked the best one I got. This is not a game where I played perfectly, but it is a game where quite a few of the cards in the deck are shown off, so I hope you enjoy it. So from the preview screen you can see that I'm playing against a Psychic Fighting Metal deck, which probably means Landorus, Garbodor, and Mewtwo, probably with Jirachi EX. This is a good matchup to show off, not because it's difficult or anything, but because it's a fairly good matchup for Virizion Genesect, but it's not one where you win easily, so you still have to play your cards right. So I get an okay hand, like there's no supporter, but I start Celebi, Skyro, and a couple of Grass, and a Genesect, so I will be able to attack a lot, but I'm going second against a deck that I know plays Hypnotoxic Laser, so I actually hesitate about starting Celebi. I might start Genesect instead. But I decided to go with Celebi anyway, because he might not have the turn 1 laser, and I'd rather get damage on Celebi than on Genesect. Since I need to buy sometimes since I don't have a supporter, but looks like my opponent doesn't either, and I top deck an Oak, so now my hand is actually really good. I get the Force Breath and a manual attachment, and then I can play the Oak, and if I get a Colress Machine, then I actually get a turn 1 Megalo Cannon, which is very rare. I have been G-Booster before turn 1, it was very painful. Unfortunately the hand I draw is not that good, all I get is like a couple Genesects. So I just played it down. I consider retreating Celebi for a bit, but I decided not to, because I'd rather just give up the single prize than get my Genesects lasered. So what's this matchup like? Well, if they get Garbodor online, they can use Hypnotoxic Laser and greatly increase their damage output, because otherwise they aren't really doing that much. Landorus is just doing 30 until it has 3 energy, and then it can use Lance Judgment to do a lot of damage. Mewtwo is pretty threatening, especially with the double colors on there now, but I draw a Lost Remover, which really lets me keep Mewtwo in check for pretty much the rest of the game. So he gets an Eviolite down, which prevents me from chipping at him with Megalo Cannon. Well, it doesn't stop me from chipping, but it stops me from tiered KOing. But I draw my Lost Remover to get rid of the DCE, and I get the Plasma Energy. And this will let me employ a strategy that you don't get to do a lot, which is keep Trubbish out of play with Red Signal. Because now that he only bench 1 Trubbish, I am able to get rid of it. And although it's only worth 1 prize, this means that I will probably be able to Red Signal his second Trubbish as well, which means I get to keep Garbodor out of play and use my abilities, and that's really huge. So my deck will generally outmuscle Landorus and Mewtwo, especially with Lost Remover available with Junk Arm now. Once I get Virizion online and Mr. Mime, he just won't be able to do much, because my damage output will be so much better. I draw another hand without a supporter, but I draw Skyro, Switch, and Smeargle, which lets me get a portrait off with basically no opportunity cost, since I will still be able to retreat into Genesect for free and get an attack off. And thankfully my opponent does have an Oak Sneeze Theory, so once again I draw out of this. I draw my Jewel Ball, which allows me to get either Virizion or Mr. Mime. Obviously I go with Virizion, because I want to protect my Genesect from getting hit by Hypnotic Laser. And now I can just retreat and get rid of the Trubbish. So very, very good start for me. I put the 20 damage on Mewtwo. I can't put it on the Landers with the energy because it has EV Light, which reduces the damage I do on it by 20. So it wouldn't work. Putting it on Mewtwo potentially helps me, not much, but it could. I could Emerald Slash for 50, and then it has 100 left and I can KO with Mekkah Cannon, but usually the 20 damage doesn't matter all that much. He benches his next Trubbish and he finds his Lost Remover, which I saw he had with Portrait, but I couldn't really do much about it. Kind of a shame, but he gets rid of my active Plasma Energy. This is why you don't want to put these down unless you're using them that turn. Generally just attaching grass works. He burns his Max Potion and then plays an Oak-Teeth Theory. You might wonder why he wasted a Max Potion from healing just 20 damage, but this will let him get it back later with Junk Arm, so he heal more damage if he needs to. And it gives him more outs to that Max Potion, because you play 4 Junk Arm with only one Max Potion usually. And right now I'm hoping that he will Hammerhead to KO the benched Celebi, because it will give him a prize, but I will not give up any more on the X's. Wow, he lost Remover is my second Plasma. That's kind of annoying. Sets me back on enemy attachments, or on energy attachments quite a bit. But he KOs the Celebi, thankfully. I'm happy about this because this gives me bench space to get the Mr. Mime with the Jewel Ball. And now I'm also able to protect my bench from damage. So his attackers are really neutered right now. The Landers have 1 energy each, and all they will be able to do is do 30 damage. He can't use lasers, and he cannot damage my bench. And it's going to stay that way because I am able to drag up this other Trubbish that he put down with my my third Plasma Energy. I've been very fortunate that he only got 1 Trubbish out at a time, and I got my red signals every time. So here I can get rid of this Trubbish and put the 20 on Mewtwo again. In hindsight, I probably should have put the 20 on Landorus because I can see that he plays EV Light. And EV Light would stop me from 2-hit KOing him with Mekkah Cannon, but if I find my G booster in time, it's fine, because at this point I've KO'd 2 non-EXs, 2 Trubbish, and I just have to KO 2 EXs to win. So I can either G booster these Pokemon, or 2-hit KO them with Mekkah Cannon, or I can drag up his Jirachi with my last Plasma Energy. And you can see he's discarding Hypnotic Laser. You can imagine how much harder this game would have been if he got to do like 10 or 30 extra damage every turn, and I would have to retreat back and forth, but Virizion EX is definitely saving the day here. But the Lost Removers were kind of annoying because I'm kind of short of energy attachments, and my active Genesect is getting really heavily damaged. It has 80 HP left, which means the Landorus on the bench, if it gets 1 more energy, it can land Judgment and KO me without discarding its energy. And Mewtwo could also KO it with an X-Ball, with just a DCE. So I'm deciding, do I want to power up Virizion and potentially Emerald Slash to get more energy into play, or do I want to power up my Genesect? Like I was tempted to go with Virizion because I don't really have the bench space to put down another Celebi, so I don't really have any acceleration left other than the Virizion, but I decided to put it on Genesect so I will be able to G-Booster more often. Like, I'd be able to respond to a 3 energy Landers with the G-Booster. Probably wasn't needed, but this is what I went with. And now I just hit the Landers for 80 and hit his Jirachi for 20. I should probably have put the damage on his Landers so that if he puts an EV Light on it, I 2-shot it with Mekkah Cannon. Instead I off here, just a hammerhead. Had he gotten the switch, he would have done 100 with the Mewtwo, which is significantly more. And I thought like the G booster, which is huge. Now I can think about closing out the game, because I'm gonna take 2 prizes for sure here. This Landorus is weakened beyond like it's needed. I can just finish it off with Megalo Cannon, and then I'm just trying to think: do I put down G booster or do I hold it and kind of bluff it? Basically, I don't want to get screwed over by N, but I also don't want to get screwed over by like a Tool Scrapper or something. So I decided to play as many cards as I could and then keep the Junk Arm in my hand so I can get G-Booster back if he gets rid of it. For some reason I clicked G-Booster. I want to say that this was like a clever way to make Mewtwo do less damage, but it really was a mistake / misclick. I shouldn't have used G-Booster. Because now if he doesn't KO my Genesect and get rid of the G-Booster with like Tool Scrapper, then it's stuck on there and I can't use G-Booster this turn. So I'm hoping that he'll just KO me. Because if he KOs me, I can just Junk Arm for the G-Booster and then attach it to my other Genesect and get rid of him with G-Booster, and that will get me my last 2 prizes. So another way I can lose, or at least not win next turn, is if he plays N, but apparently he only has Juniper. So I don't think there's a way for him to win right now, even if he doesn't KO this Genesect. He's just going to be in a very bad position overall, and it will only be a matter of time before I will be able to G-Booster him. He finally found a Super Rod and got its rubbish back, but at this point it's way too late to get the Garbodor back online. The fact that I was able to keep it out of play at the beginning really paid dividends overall. So yeah, he just decided to KO me, and now I will just Junk Arm for G-Booster for the game. So I tell him well played, and that's all there is to it. So hope you enjoyed this game, hope you enjoyed the analysis, and post in the comments what decks you'd like to see next time, and I'll see what I can do. So see you around.